Even the establishment recognizes that there is a whole wave of conservative state reps, and it's a different breed of conservatives. It's not the ones that just act and sound conservative, but the ones that have the backbone that I think are going to be down there and actually truly fight for the conservative grassroots and give the voters what they've been wanting for a long time.
Hello, welcome to another episode of TFVC Shot Callers. I am TFVC President Rebecca Hardy. Welcome to our next installment where we are highlighting some of our primary winners from our recommended candidates, our voter guide. And I am here today with Mike Olcott, who just won his primary a few weeks ago in HD 60, which is kind of the Parker, greater Parker County area of Texas. And I'm going to pivot straight to Mike and let him introduce himself and tell y'all about just his background and why he wanted to run for state rep. So welcome to the show, Mike, and introduce yourself to our listeners.
Yeah, my name is Mike Olcott. I'm a retired biochemist and was very happy doing research until I went to the border in 2005 with the Minutemen, and at the border I met a lot of patriotic Americans that came from all over the country to be an extra set of eyes and ears for the Border Patrol. And during that time, I kind of got the activism bug, and my passion kind of left research, and I kind of realized that I really wanted to be hanging around with these people, not the liberal professors in academia. And so shortly after that, my wife and I moved back to Texas. I retired and got involved with the Republican Party up in Denton County. I was living in Argyle, and some of the Tea Party groups around North Texas. Yep. And that's probably how we first met. Mm-hmm. And got involved primarily in Republican primaries for the Texas House, because at the 2010 state convention in Dallas, I learned from a piece of paper that David Barton had put in all the 7,000 chairs of the delegates about how most conservative legislation in Texas was being stymied or killed in the Texas House. It was getting out of the Texas Senate, but it was dying in the Texas House because primarily of one man, a guy by the name of Joe Strauss, who was elected with all the Democrats joining forces with 11 liberal Republicans. And that kind of set the precedent that still goes on today, where the Speaker of the Texas House is beholden to Democrats. And because he assigns chairmanships to many of the Democrats, if there's any bill that he wants to kill and he doesn't want to take the blame himself, he assigns it to a committee being chaired by a Democrat, and it's going to die there. The other committees I've learned and have learned over the last decade are often, if they're not chaired by a Democrat, they're chaired by a liberal Republican. And so, like I said, that's the biggest impediment for conservatives getting good legislation passed. And so when I learned about this at the 2010 convention, my wife and I have kind of dedicated ourselves to electing more conservative state reps so that we can maybe shift that paradigm and get more make it more easy to get a more reasonable conservative Texas Speaker of the House. And so that's what we've been doing. The first election cycle, 2012, there was a bunch of activists around North Texas that actually helped elect 10 different really good conservative state reps, and went down there in the 2013 session. They were really good at first, but unfortunately, as happens far too often in Austin, about 70% of them went bad, not the first session, but sometimes after 2 sessions, 3 sessions. 2014, the next cycle, was the cycle we elected Matt Rinaldi and Tony Tinnerholt, who both stayed really good. But anyway, one of the things that I guess frustrates me is that almost as fast as the grassroots conservatives can elect good conservatives to the Texas House, they almost turn as many bad. And so it's been kind of frustrating. And I know a few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, I got very frustrated and was almost ready to quit. But then we got a couple more good ones in there, stayed engaged. But I got to tell you, Rebecca, I am really excited because obviously I'm excited about me winning my race. But this happened as you know, it happened all over Texas. On March 5th, there was an earthquake that hit Texas. And even the establishment recognizes that there is a whole wave of conservative state reps, and it's a different breed of conservatives. It's not the ones that just act and sound conservative, but the ones that have the backbone that I think are going to be down there and actually truly fight for the conservative grassroots and give the voters what they've been wanting for a long time. And so, and if we succeed in the runoff elections to get another, 5 or 10, the Texas House is going to be flipped upside down, and I'm excited.
I was just talking to somebody earlier this week to give them kind of a person new to, kind of paying attention to Texas politics. And I said, I just need you to understand that in primary cycles in the past, we count ourselves victorious if maybe one or two of these, lackluster incumbents loses, and to have, 9, 10, 12 of these incumbents lose outright and another 9 or so go to runoffs. It was unprecedented and historic. And it's so funny. I hesitate to use the word unprecedented because we heard the word unprecedented all during COVID. And so I feel like it has this, tarnished connotation now, but that truly was unprecedented. A cold or a flu is not unprecedented, but the primaries in Texas certainly were, for sure. And so you ran 2 years ago as well. And so what compelled you to run again? Because it's not for the faint of heart, let's be clear.
It wasn't. And it wasn't an easy decision, but I lost by 306 votes. And that's a tough loss because, one thing, I always knew that campaigns were tough, but one thing I didn't realize is that when you get involved in one yourself, instead of just being a grassroots activist that knocks on doors every once in a while, it's 24/7. Every waking minute, you're doing something related to that campaign. You kind of have to shove the rest of your life to the side. And last time when I ran, we also had a runoff race, so it was like 8 months of just every single day. And so, like I said, it was not an easy decision. But I just felt like it was something I didn't want to actually not run and then regret it later. And I did feel that there was some things shifting in Texas with the Paxton impeachment. I was upset about that, and a lot of other Republican primary voters as well. And so I just felt like I needed to give it one more try, and I'm really glad I did because it turned out a lot different this time.
So tell our listeners the election night results.
So we won Parker County 66% to 34%, and we actually last time I won Parker County 55 to 45%. This time we won 66 to 34, and about 80% of the voters are in Parker County. But there's two other counties in the district, Palo Pinto County and Stevens County. And Palo Pinto County has roughly 12% of the voters, and Stevens County maybe 8%, or maybe it's more like 5 and 15%. And the last time I ran, my opponent got around 73% of the vote in both Palo Pinto County and Stevens County. This time, I actually won Palo Pinto County narrowly, just maybe something like 51 or 52% to 48%, something like that. And then in Stevens County, I lost, but only, like I said, I think I lost 52-48 around that area. And so it was very different this time. But I also was blessed this time in Parker County with an enormous grassroots army of people that also, like most of the Republican primary voters I met, there was something different this time than there was last time. I mean, people were upset with what was happening in the country 2 years ago, and they were, upset with they felt like Republicans were continuing to let them down. But this time I saw a much stronger sense of urgency and anger among them. And that, I think that actually made them less likely to fall for some of the propaganda mail that was being sent out. And they simply wanted someone that they felt was going to go down there and fight for what they believe in. And it also manifested itself in the grassroots army that I was blessed to have. They're passionate, and many of them showed up every Saturday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning from August to March. And I can probably name 10 people that did that virtually every single Saturday, and another 40 or 50 people that, every other Saturday. So I was truly blessed to have an enormous army. And that one of I think the best things that happened from this race, when I kind of look back at the whole thing, is that it's actually been a very strong encouragement to the grassroots, because many of them, and I'm sure it's not just my race, I'm sure this is many of the races you're going to be focused on in these interviews, you'll probably find the same thing, that the grassroots were even more engaged. And I think that the fact that we won is going to encourage them to be even more involved, and I think it's going to bring even more people into the movement, especially when they see what we're going to accomplish in the Texas House. I think we're going to truly reform the Texas House, which is long overdue. Yeah. So I think that's one of the things that it's just now kind of sinking in. I'm seeing many of my volunteers are, even though the race has been over more than a month, they're chomping at the bit to get involved in the runoff races. Many of them are wanting to go up and help Andy Hopper up in Decatur. And they're also heavily involved in the SD30 race and the CD12 race in Parker County. So, yeah, it's exciting to be a grassroots conservative in Texas right now. It truly is.
You've built a little army over here in Parker County. Yeah. It's so wonderful to see. As somebody who, TFVC is 9 years old, and in those early years, I personally locked on, I don't even know how many thousands of doors, and it was very rare that we got a W. And, it's hard to be always on the losing side, but March 5th was such a just injection, no vaccine humor intended, of just excitement into the movement for sure. Well, okay, so you had this army of volunteers between block walking, campaigning, town halls, early voting, all of those shenanigans combined. Do you have a story or two that you'd like to share from the trail that stand out? That it could be either something funny or just compelling, or I
guess two things come to mind. One of them it kind of expands on what I just mentioned, is that during early voting as well as election day, we had almost every polling location not only covered with volunteers handing out material and talking to voters, but in many cases we had 4 or 5 volunteers at any given polling site, and it was unprecedented. Yes. Again, I've never seen anything like it. Yeah. And I had a great campaign manager who helped organize that. But people, and it wasn't like she had to even work that hard to actually get people to show up at the polls. They were calling her saying, "Where do you want me?" And so that was a lot of fun. And it was, when I would show up to the polls, and if I got there at 9, many of those people had been there since 7 in the morning. It was an awesome sight to see. And not just the number of people, but the passion I saw among them, not only helping them in my race, but some of the other races that were going place in Parker County.
And these are volunteers. These are not people that are there to get a paycheck or anything.
No. And that's another very strong distinction between my campaign and my opponent's campaign, is that virtually everyone that was working the polls for him or knocking doors for him were being paid. Yeah. And we didn't, the first time I ran, we had some paid block walkers. This time we didn't do that. We had such an enormous grassroots army that we didn't do that. We
humbling.
It was truly. Yeah. And so that was special. That really was. And there's a difference too. If you're a voter and someone knocks on your door, if that person is there voluntarily and they're not being paid, they're likely there because there's a reason they're there, and they're passionate. And the voter can see that. I mean, there's no question they can see that. And when someone shows up and says, "Hi, would you consider voting for so-and-so?" and he's being paid to do it, the voter sees right through it. And I don't think that it's almost, that's why I felt like it wasn't even worth paying people to pay, to block walk, because I think voters see through that. And I think they're much more likely to respond to a passionate volunteer than they are a paid block walker.
100%. Was there a funny story?
Yeah, there's a funny story in there. So as I learned the first time, especially the last few weeks of the campaign, there's all these negative mailers, and you go to the mailbox, and especially this time, every day I'd go to the mailbox and I'd learn something new about myself and just lie after lie. And one of the ones that was, actually it wasn't a mailer, it was a TV ad that he did. That was playing all over the district. I might even been going over to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I think it was, because I even some friends from high school saw that. But it was a video that said that I was educated in Sweden and that I owned a yacht, and showed a picture of like 3 super yachts in the probably Caribbean or Mediterranean, kind of going over the waves. And then it showed a mansion in probably, somewhere in Florida, because it had oceanfront, and it was almost like Mar-a-Lago mansion, probably worth a $20 million house. Right. And so, but he was claiming that I owned a yacht.
And a mansion.
And a mansion.
And a mansion on the coast.
And a mansion. So, we have a nice house, 4,000 square foot house, but it's like appraised at 600,000, which is not, it might be a little bit more than the average in Parker County, but it's not a whole lot more. But the yacht thing was really just kind of over the top in our opinion. So I think what he did is he looked and saw that I had a boat registered. And so without knowing what boat it was, he just assumed it was, he didn't assume, he just made up the fact that it must be a yacht.
Yep.
And it's probably worth $5,000. So I decided to go down to my shed where I'm harboring this yacht and make a video of that yacht. And also during that little video, try to pick apart some of the other ridiculous stuff he mentioned in that TV ad.
Yeah.
And I kind of stink at social media. I'm not very good. I was never on social media until I ran the first time, and so I was kind of forced to get on Facebook and Twitter. But when I posted this yacht video, it was viewed so many times it became one of the trending videos, which has never happened for me. Probably never happen again. And so to this day, I meet people, not even necessarily in my district, but literally all over the DFW area that have seen that yacht video. And I probably had 50 text messages saying, "Hey, why have you been holding out on me all these years? Why haven't you taken me out on your yacht?"
I sent you one of that. I did.
Yeah.
I sent him a text. I said, "I am so deeply offended that I have never been invited on the yacht with you and Marika because apparently you've been holding out on the grassroots, right?"
That's right. So since I'm not taking office till January, I think I do need to get that yacht out of
your shed.
Out of the shed and get it cleaned up and put in the water this summer and start taking some of my friends and my hardworking volunteers on my yacht this summer. So
I saw the video and it is decidedly not a yacht. It's a good boat.
21-foot ski boat, a 2003 21-foot ski boat.
Decidedly not a yacht. That was a great story. And that whole commercial that your opponent put out, it sounded like the it had the British,
the rich and famous.
Yes, the British accent was a nice touch. It was really funny.
I wonder if you had to pay extra for that.
That's really funny. Okay, well, let's kind of pivot to some nuts and bolts here, and that is, what are you? Life at the Capitals is. We always like to say that it's like a rat cage, right, where everybody's kind of competing for the same resources of air, food, water, sunshine even, because so much of the building's underground. So with that in mind, what do you think you are going to contribute that's new or different?
Well, the first thing how I'd respond to that is that right now we have 4 really good, solid, principal conservative state reps down there, and they desperately need reinforcements, and they're getting the reinforcements. And now one of them in particular, Nate Schatzline, actually said that he and his wife been praying for reinforcements for the last year, ever since the last special session. And it goes back even further than that, because the last special session, I guess, was just this past December. So the reinforcements are coming, and one of our primary objectives, we've already been talking and meeting, and one of our primary objectives is to reform the Texas House, and how the Speaker is elected and what the Speaker does once he's elected. And that's why we came out with this contract with Texas letter. And so I think one of the first things I'd like to try to accomplish down there with this growing conservative movement that's headed to Austin is to reform the Texas House, to stop I'm not being naive to think we're going to completely be able to stop it, but some of the games and stuff down there where if you don't do exactly what you're told by the Speaker, you're going to be put in the doghouse. And just to create an environment where all the state legislators feel like they have a chance to pass good, meaningful bills. And I think especially Republican bills and conservative bills, and for us to spend more time prioritizing Republican Party of Texas legislative priority bills. And that's something, because if you have ever looked at them, they're always great bills that are very popular with voters. And the reason is because they're voted on by the average grassroots voter. So
that's right.
So that's, but I think addressing the property tax problem and the border are my 2 biggest issues. That's why I'm running. That's what I campaign on. And that's going to be my goal, is to try to get some meaningful legislation to address both of those issues.
And is your third legislative priority vaccine choice and medical liberty? There's only one right answer here,
Yeah,
Mike.
of course. Although you did such a great job this last session, I don't let you know how much more there is to do. I'm sure there is some more that we need to do.
That's really funny. There is so much more to do.
Yes.
So many of our bills were so limitedly focused on COVID, and
That's
we
right.
know that this is a much larger battle for the hearts and souls and bodies of
Yes.
all Texans. So, well, that's wonderful. You were recommended by us based on, well, I would say based on the survey and all the vetting we did, but also, I just want our listeners to know that Mike and Marika, his precious wife, they have truly been TFVC supporters way before he ever ran for office. And so it's so thrilling to see his victory. But, you were recommended because we did have a thorough vetting process based on not, obviously your previous support of us, but also your conviction to the cause based on your survey responses. So how do you see yourself contributing to the advancement of medical liberty in the Texas House?
Just be fighting along side by side with you on the issues of medical freedom, that we should not allow the government to force us to put anything in our body we don't want in our body. And that's just, it's up to the individual. And when it comes to children, it's up to the parents. And the government should have no role in that.
Wonderful. So would you file or co-author some legislation for us?
I'd be more than happy to.
Okay, look, y'all heard it here first. Okay, wonderful.
Got to see what the bill is first. Yeah.
Fair.
But I don't know if I've ever seen a bill you all proposed that I didn't like, though.
Well, fair. That's the right answer, but we promise not to lead you astray with bad legislation. And what do you think, keeping in that vein, what is your gold standard of the legislative approach to these medical procedures, like medical mandates in general?
That, I'm not necessarily anti-vaccine. I just believe that it's up to the individual. And so my gold standard is the legislation needs to keep in place the liberties that we have, as citizens and as humans, to decide for ourselves what we inject in our own body.
Right. And I would say there's a lot of room for improvement in our codes. There's still so many instances where there's vagueness or there's room for those mandates to creep in. We saw it during the shutdowns and all of that. And so I look forward to partnering with you on cleaning up some of those codes and to advance the cause for sure.
I look forward to it also.
Do you have any final words for our supporters, our listeners here today, Mike?
No, I just am so happy with everything that you've done in the movement since I first met you. And I hope that your supporters continue to support you and give you the resources you need to make it possible for us to pass these bills that y'all are, it's not obviously just financial support. It's actually coming to testify to the Capitol. Yes. And if you haven't done it before, their organization, Rebecca, would love for you to come join them down there to testify in front of committees, and that's always powerful when they have certain bills are being offered. If I introduce a bill that I would love to see you all down there testifying on behalf of that bill. That's powerful stuff. Yes,
and to his point, if you are interested in getting more involved at the Capitol, we really, we do a lot of things really well. And one of these is that we really try to lift the veil of advocacy at the Capitol. It can feel really overwhelming, but it's not brain surgery. Yeah. And we have figured it out, and we'd love to have you join us at the Capitol at any of our citizen engagement days or at a bill hearing, committee hearing. We will show you the ropes or at least, hold your hand through and walk you through the baby steps of effective advocacy at the Capitol. Mm-hmm. So, well, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Rebecca.
Really enjoyed hearing about your life on the campaign trail and your legislative philosophy, and I hope our listeners did as well.
Thank you for listening to the Shot Callers podcast. Please, if you found value in this content, rate us and share the podcast with a friend. It's a great way to get the message out and to empower everyone to make informed decisions. Until next time, never forget, we are the Shot Callers.